Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can see that, and I will make it full screen mode as
That's
well.
fine. That's
Is that
excellent.
okay with everyone? Okay,
Excellent.
brilliant. So Charlie's going to start off, and then I'll take over in a bit.
Thanks, Tanya. Firstly, good evening to everyone. My name is Charles Merry, and I'm delighted to be presenting to you this evening. I represent Thames Properties and the co-owners of Site 5, which is known as land to the west of Fairmile. To keep things simple, I'm just going to be joined by Tanya Jordan of RPS Planning. Tanya is Thames Properties planning advisor and, like me, has been involved in the site of the Fairmile for the past 10 years. We're very grateful for the opportunity to present to the Neighbourhood Plan Committee and the wider audience that are joining us, and we'll be happy to take any questions once we've finished our presentation. Site 5 is a proposed extension to the existing allocated Site A under the joint Henley and Harpsden Neighbourhood Plan of 2016. And just for clarity, it's important to note that our presentation therefore covers the proposals for the overall combined site, which are already well advanced through the planning process. Tanya, if you can move to the next slide, thank you. I'd like to start with some very brief background information for those of you that may not be familiar with the site and may be new to the neighbourhood plan process. Thames Properties and the co-owners of this land have been involved in this site since the early 1970s. However, since 2009, Thames Properties have assumed overall responsibility for promoting the site on behalf of all of the landowners. We first started to formally engage with Henley Town Council and SODC in respect of the potential development of this site in 2009. We've been fully engaged in the neighbourhood plan process from its inception in 2013. And we were, of course, delighted to achieve a successful allocation for Site A, which is the site shown outlined in red on this slide, in 2016. Under the Neighbourhood Plan 2016 allocation, Site A was the only development site to the north of the town. This is an important fact as it helps to distribute the development more evenly around the town and mitigates the overall impacts of future development on Henley and the town's infrastructure. As you will be aware, the current Site A allocation is for around 60 units. And in the neighbourhood plan, the allocation specifies that the following key objectives should be met. Firstly, the development should respond to the site's setting adjacent to the AONB, or Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, and the several important heritage assets, listed houses fronting the Fairmile, listed wall that runs alongside the Fairmile, etc. Secondly, the development should provide for improved pedestrian and cycle links to the town centre, and also green links and corridors that safeguard the ecological importance of the site. The next slide, please, Tanya. So following the allocation of Site A in 2016, Thames Properties and the co-owners have acquired the land that comprises Site 5, also known as Field Cottage, and which is highlighted in blue on the plan on this slide. We believe that the addition of Site 5 will result in an overall better development in terms of layout, land use, and also provides the opportunity to deliver additional residential units. During 2017, we advanced our discussions with regard to the development of the expanded site with SODC and other key stakeholders, including Henley Town Council. In 2018 and 2019, we held extensive public consultations on the proposals, which included 2 public exhibitions in the town hall. And last year, we submitted a detailed planning application for 72 residential units across the combined sites. This application includes the delivery of 40% affordable homes, equivalent to 29 units. This application gained the support of Henley Town Council in September 2019, subject to further analysis of wildlife corridors and the impact of the proposed apartment blocks in the northwest corner of the site. So for the past year, we've been working closely with SODC on the application and are anticipating a decision on the proposals by the end of this year. I'm now going to hand over to Tanya, who will explain the proposals for the combined Site A and Site 5 in greater detail to you.
Great, thanks Charlie, and thanks everyone again for the opportunity to present to you tonight. So as Charlie said, I'm just going to go through a bit more of the detail of the existing site, the site characteristics, key elements which have influenced our design evolution over the last 3 or 4 years, and also then going into the detailed proposal which is currently under determination by SODC. So to start off with, I'll go through some of the site characteristics, and this is actually an image which is within our design and access statement for the submitted application. So as Charlie said, we're just to the north of the town centre, about 1 kilometre to the north. And we have existing residential development on 3 sides. That includes some higher density development along and around Luca Avenue, and then lower density development along the Fairmile edge, and then off Badgemore Farm Track to the north. Existing pedestrian access is currently via a track off the Fairmile between number 23 and 25 Fairmile, which are coloured in in purple on this slide, and those 2 buildings are actually grade 2 listed as well. There's also an existing vehicular route to the site along Badgemore Farm Track, which is the track to the north of the site. The eastern part of the site, closer to the Fairmile, is within Henley Conservation Area, and the western boundary adjoins the AONB but is not within it. Another key consideration as part of our design evolution is actually how the site slopes, and it does slope down from the AONB down towards the Fairmile, and we've worked very closely with these gradients and contours as part of our design evolution. The site is within flood zone 1 and is therefore at low risk of flooding. And really importantly, and something which has been a key consideration in our design, is the ecological and landscape characteristics of the site. This includes tree preservation orders, which are along Badgemore Farm Track and also along the copse towards the rear of Luca Avenue. And we've undertaken extensive ecological surveys which have identified dormouse habitat on site and also a small slow worm population, which have been addressed within our proposals, which I'll go through in more detail shortly. So the plan here is the plan as submitted and currently under determination by SODC. And as Charlie said, it is for 72 units, a mixture of houses and flats, and that is across the comprehensive site. So both the existing site allocation A within your 2016 plan, and also within site 5 as proposed within the ACOM site selection document. The majority of the units on the site are 2 stories with pitched roofs. Some units are 3 stories with a basement, and as Charlie said, these have sort of been designed specifically with gradients and views in mind, and working with the existing topography to ensure they do not impact on wider views. 40% will be affordable, and I'll come on in a second to the accommodation schedule. Also just wanted to highlight that the architect we've been working with, DPA Architects, are a locally based Oxfordshire architect firm and have been working on the proposals since 2017, and have had a lot of due regard to your various design codes and requirements. The development, which is explained in detail within the submitted design and access statement, is split up into different character zones, 6 different character zones, which obviously add interest and variety across the site. But we have a common palette of materials which respect the local vernacular and character. Boundary treatment and distances between the proposed units and existing residents has always been key and at forefront of our minds to it, and we have ensured that the new units are well set back. We've also proposed, as Charlie mentioned, there is a requirement within the 2016 neighbourhood plan to provide enhanced pedestrian and cycle links to the town centre. So we are proposing a new link through into Lucan Avenue to deliver those enhanced links. And then, as you can see, there's a large area of biodiversity land and landscaping routes through the site. Over 30% of the site is dedicated to open space or landscaped areas, and these are also for biodiversity and reptile and dormouse requirements. So just a summary here of our accommodation schedule as submitted. So as we've said, it's 72 units in total, a mix of 52 houses and 20 flats. We've provided both smaller 1 and 2 bed units to cater for younger people and smaller households, and also a good mix of larger units as well. We are proposing a policy compliant split of affordable housing with rent and shared ownership, and something that has been important to us and has come out through discussions with the case officers at SODC is, of course, to make sure that the units are tenure blind as well. So on this slide, I've just picked out some of the images which are contained within the submitted design and access statement to give you an idea of the quality of the development and type of material palette and design proposed. In the top right corner, you can see some images of precedents from the local area which have influenced the architectural style from DPA Architects. And then I've also put on the slide 3 CGIs. Just to clarify, in terms of the design palette, we're looking at a variety of bricks, along with flint, stone detailing, clay tiles, timber boarding, and renders as well. So starting just to take you through the 3 images that we have put for our own from the design and access statement of the CGIs of our scheme. Starting in the top left corner is a view along the main access spine road within the site, which shows houses along the spine road, but also landscaping and planting along the length of the road. In the bottom left corner is a view through the ecological habitat, which is behind 23 and 25 Fairmile, next to Lucan Avenue, which also provides opportunities for a walking route through the ecological area and also some play equipment as well. And the final image in the bottom right corner shows 2 of the 4 houses along Badgemore Farm track, with existing trees retained along that boundary. So those are some of the images from the submitted design and access statement. Just moving on to ecology and landscape. As we've noted earlier, we've undertaken extensive ecological survey work over the last 3 years or so, and it has identified a presence of bats and slowworms on the site, a small slowworm population, and also evidence of dormice. Starting firstly with the dormouse habitat, there's currently 1.45 hectares of dormouse habitat on sites, but this is classified as suboptimal scrub and woodland. So our scheme proposes to provide about 1.25 hectares of high quality dormouse habitat with enhanced or new planted woodland. We're also providing enhance connectivity through the site for the dormice to travel through and along corridors. This strategy has been agreed with the District Council ecology officers already. In terms of the slow worm habitat, we have agreed a strategy with SODC to look at a translocation site where they can be moved off-site and relocated elsewhere. This has been worked through in partnership with the Town Council as well. The off-site location will be secured within the Section 106 planning legal agreement, and funds will be provided to ensure the ongoing maintenance of that site. The tree strategy has also involved detailed discussions with the council's forestry officer and will include significant new tree planting to strengthen green infrastructure across the site, whilst also protecting the existing TPOs in particular. And finally, on this point, we have undertaken a biodiversity net gain calculation, which has been reviewed a number of times by the ecology officer at the District Council. And we are proposing a payment into an offsetting scheme to ensure a net gain. Just moving on to access. So we're proposing a new main vehicular access through a new road cutting through the Fairmile. This again has been agreed in partnership with the Town Council, and also the detailed layouts have been agreed with and reviewed by transport officers at the County Council. And we've popped in there a detailed diagram showing the layout of that access, which is within the submitted transport statement with the planning application. We have also proposed to extend the 30-mile-per-hour zone along Fairmile to include the new development access.
That's good.
As we've noted before, we've proposed a new pedestrian and cycle link to Luca Avenue, which is a requirement of the neighbourhood plan. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have an existing vehicular access along Badgemore Farm Track, and we are proposing that 4 houses along that track have direct vehicular access along Badgemore Farm Track. Field Cottage, for example, would already have access along that track. And finally, on access, following consultation with neighbours as part of the pre-application process, we are proposing to close the existing pedestrian route into the site, which is between 23 and 25 Fairmile. This will also limit the number of pedestrians walking through the ecological zone, which is particularly required for the dormice. So that was the detailed consideration. So just back to Charlie to wrap up on our final slide.
Thanks, Tonya. So, Ken, I'm just going to do a very quick summary.
Okay.
Because I know we're
no, you've got plenty of time.
Thank you. So I really hope that from what you've heard, you will get a sense of the amount of time and work that has been spent in working up the proposals for this site and the combined sites of Site A and Site 5. The 72 unit scheme will deliver on the key neighbourhood plan objectives, including providing 40% affordable homes. The layout respects the existing ecology on the site and will include protected dormice habitat, green infrastructure and corridors so that the wildlife can move about without too much difficulty. The landscape element of the development has been carefully considered and will include extensive new tree planting together with public open space and the play facilities that Tanya mentioned. There'll be a new pedestrian and cycle link to the town centre via Luca Avenue. The design of the buildings has drawn on the local vernacular. We purposely employed an Oxfordshire-based architect down in Watlington to work on the design for us. And our brief to him was, work with materials that are high quality and in keeping with the local area. The development's impact on the existing heritage assets, the Henley Conservation Area, the adjoining AONB and the wider area has been carefully considered and assessed in conjunction with SODC during the application process over the last year. As far as possible, the proposals try to respect the existing neighbours, and we've included an extensive green buffer which doubles as an ecological area around much of the perimeter of the site. And the new access onto the Fairmile has been approved now by both Henley Town Council and Oxfordshire County Council. So we feel we're in a good and exciting place with regard to the proposals. And finally, on behalf of Thames Properties, we would like to thank you all once again for your time this evening. We look forward to engaging with Henley Town Council and the Neighbourhood Plan Committee as this process continues. And Tanya and I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay, thank you. If we could have the screen back, Tanya. Yeah, thank you. Excellent presentation, Tanya and Charles. I should have mentioned at the start, actually, that Henley Town Council does have an interest in this, being a land owner. So I'll just mention that now. And also, I think Charles or Tanya mentioned it's already in the neighbourhood plan. I think you've done an amazing amount of work on this. I think if it had been me, I'd have probably just sold the piece of land off and enjoyed the rest of my life somewhere else. But I think it's fantastic what you've put into this. I think we both had a full head of hair, Charles, when we started this.
It has been 10 years in the making.
Yeah, must congratulate you. So yeah, so open to questions from the working group first. Who would like to speak first? Patrick, you've been quiet tonight. Patrick.
Yeah. I very much welcome the tree planting. Can you give me some idea of numbers on that, above and beyond the trees existing on site?
Yeah, in terms of, I've got some numbers in terms of the loss of the trees. The proposed trees, it's quite significant. If you want an exact number, I can go away and count them and come back to you later. But it's in terms of, we're retaining 113.
Yeah.
We will have a loss of 53. 32 of those we do acknowledge are in the conservation area, but of that, 91% of them are category C or category U. So we've done extensive work with our arboriculturists to really look at how the layout has been designed to protect as many trees as possible, including the TPOs. And we've had a number of site visits with the tree officer at SODC to go through, and his latest comments on the application have been that he supports what we're proposing in terms of the loss and the mitigation through the landscaping. But we do acknowledge there's a detailed landscaping plan to be conditioned and taken forward.
Yeah, Patrick, I think you want to come back.
Yeah, just say I would be interested in the numbers on that.
That's fine.
The other. Can I raise another question?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
And that is that you mentioned about effectively offsetting by rather than trying to concentrate completely on the site itself. Is that because of the geographical constraint and space constraint? Yeah, I'd like to explore that a little bit further.
Yeah, it's simply due to the existing characteristics and nature of the site, and the level of sort of ecological survey work that's been gone on, and the planting that exists and the tree banding that exists, particularly on the lower part of the site. So to bring it forward, and as I said, we have put forward 30% of the site already as ecological enhancement and corridor areas. So it's quite a significant amount of the site. And we've specifically looked at making sure that the area where we've put the biodiversity area is the existing area where the dormouse habitat is. So we've ensured that we've removed development from that and put forward, as I said, overall about 30% of the site as green and open space and landscaping. to take it any more obviously then impacts on the deliverability and the number of units. So we have gone through a number of rounds with the district council officers on the biodiversity calculator and the biodiversity net gain calculator, and have actually just had some further informal discussions with them on an updated calculation, which they have in principle agreed, and that does give a fairly significant sum into a biodiversity offset scheme.
Patrick, it might be useful to note that when we held our first public exhibition in the town hall in 2018,
Remember
our proposals were for 83 units across the site, and you know, we took on board both feedback from SODC and also the people of Henley, and in particular people who lived in close proximity to the site and knew it well, and that resulted in a reduction in the number of units to the scheme currently proposed, and I suppose an enhancement in the ecological aspects of the proposals.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the working group? No. Jodie, do you have anything?
So you mentioned that it's likely that you'll get the decision for the planning application later this year. When would you expect that work to start on the site if it's accepted?
Well, that's, Jodie, because we are eternal optimists. So we do hope that we will get a determination, you know, before the end of the year. Nothing obviously is guaranteed. To be honest, we haven't really focused on the next stage of how the development will be delivered. I can be perfectly honest with you and say that Thames Properties is not a mainstream house builder, but there are a number of different ways that we could bring the site forward, which we are starting to now think about and have, you know, discussions with parties. So, you know, it could be that we let someone else take it on. It could be a joint venture of some nature. We just don't know at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
I've got 14 participants here, but I've only got 11 people's faces on the screen. Do we know who the other 3 are?
Yes, it's Stefan, Louise, and Michelle.
Okay.
Catherine.
Oh, sorry, and Kath. Yes, sorry.
I think we just take anybody who wishes to ask a question. Is that you, Catherine, or Stefan?
Me, Catherine.
Yeah, okay. Catherine, yeah.
Thank you for your presentation, and I'm very glad that you're quite aware of the importance of the ecology and the environment. Did you actually say how many trees were going to be planted?
That was a question which Patrick asked, and I did explain I just need to count them up on the drawings, but I can definitely provide that information. It's in the submitted, the landscaping plans with the proposed types of tree planting and shrub planting, etc., all on the landscaping drawings, but I can count them up and provide them to Jodie later.
And you also said there'd be a loss of 53 mature trees, is that correct?
There's a loss of 53 trees. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to say completely right off the top of my head if they're mature or not, but there is a loss of 53.
Would you be prepared to look into the state of those trees and if they're mature or not?
So in the yes, and we could in the arboricultural impact assessment, we go through each of the areas within the site and explain exactly which trees are being removed and which category they're in. That's in the submitted documents. So I can provide that section if it's helpful to Jodie, but that goes through, as I said, about 4 or 5 different sections across the site, including Field Cottage, which is the subject of Site 5, and it explains exactly which trees, what type and what category.
And what girth they should be, because then
that's all in the schedule. Yeah.
I did actually notice on your plans that it didn't quite look necessary to remove some of them. So I'm sure we will, once we get those plans, we can look into it, as you said, with more detail. My other observation is that on the first slide, the free margins and verges looked a little bit more generous than the second slide you showed, and also there was a pond mentioned on there.
Pond, one of our original pre-application proposals did have a pond, but that's been removed within the submitted application.
So unfortunate. Would you consider putting it back again?
It actually had, from our pre-application exhibition, it actually had quite mixed views from residents. Some were concerned about safety, and others, yeah, it was a very mixed view, and we took the position to actually to remove it.
Actually, on behalf of the reptiles and the invertebrates and the dormice, I'm sure they wouldn't think it would be a risk. There are wildlife ponds that you can make very safe, and there is a lot of literature on it. Would you consider, please, reinstating some sort of water source to provide for the wildlife there? After all, you talk about the corridors, but if they have no water, it's a bit of an empty promise.
Catherine, if I can answer that, and I'm afraid, you know, the brutal answer is probably no.
Wow.
There's no water on the site at the moment. And I also think it's probably worth just reminding everyone, and Ken might support me or not on this, is that the purpose of this presentation, whilst we've given a lot of information and detail about the proposals, we're really talking about the allocation of Site 5 and its inclusion in the scheme.
Yes.
All the other detail, and you've raised some very valid points. Please forgive me, I'm not criticising you, but a lot of that information and the detail of that is part of the planning application process that is already. Yeah.
May I just continue, Charles? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Cokie, just hold fire a minute, Catherine. I don't want this to come with a full-scale conversation between you and one or two people. I'm not sure how many questions you've got. If you could give me an idea how many questions you've got, rather than just get a conversation going.
Well, also, I'd just like to say to Charles that 2/3 of this was about the site, the old site, and on one, is it site 51 or something like that, the new site A, there was very little talked about it. You want to open up some more space to get vehicles through the Badgemore Lane, is it there? Badgemore?
We're not proposing to change that route. We're proposing to allow 4 units, 4 houses to access directly their vehicles from that route.
So no tree loss there on that.
The
tree.
main trees are protected.
Okay.
There was always an access from Field Cottage there, Catherine.
Yeah, can I please say though, when you are trying to have connectivity, it actually means that the wildlife can move from areas around through your planning plot and out the other side. It's not just about putting canopies in where birds can flit from here to there. It's actually from wildlife to move through the plot. Have you considered that?
Completely, and the banding across the site has been specifically designed to allow those linkages and those corridors for them to move through, and particularly to the side which is adjacent to the AONB, we actually incorporated an additional piece of land to the south, which has been specifically provided as additional corridor space. So we are really, really aware of that, and our ecologist has worked hard to provide that banding, particularly for the dormice to be able to move around.
And the other thing is, when you build homes, it's the connectivity between each other's gardens there, because that's the main way that the wildlife moves through places like that. So instead of putting up fences, are you going to have open planning and hedges so the wildlife can habitat?
Well, let's just hold fire a minute, Catherine. I live, you know where I live in Elizabeth Road. We've got.
Oh goodness, we're not discussing.
Let me just say, where I live in Elizabeth Road, we moved here and it's got 6-foot fences. I get deer in the garden, I get foxes in the garden, I got amazing amount of different birds in the garden. And I'm sure, you know, when this site matures, you will get exactly the same. So I would imagine what you lose, you will more than gain. And so come and have a look at my back garden, the amount of trees I got in my garden. Can I just finish? Can I just finish? The amount of trees that are in my back garden, when this piece of land here was just open farmland before it was built on, but I guarantee there's probably hundreds more trees here now and shrubs and whatever than what was ever here before. So, you know, I think let's give these people a little bit of credit on what they're proposing, right, rather than just seem to find fault in everything that
No,
they.
I'm not finding fault.
Well, it's Catherine, it's come over that way. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I'm disappointed with that.
Yeah, well, okay.
It's not meant to be.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that you're quite right. Open farmland. This is farmland. This is open land. It's not a brown site. It is a green site. It is a very rich and diverse biodiversity. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I come over anything other than wanting to see that biodiversity unhurt.
I think we all wish to see the same.
I don't want to say anything else. Thank you.
Okay, no, I think we all wish to see the same, but you know, there is so much you can do and so much you can't. Charles, would you like to respond?
Yeah, just very briefly, just to say, I think Catherine raised some, some good points and some good questions, and that's what we're here to answer. I would just encourage her to have a look at the site plan that was included in the presentation. I know it's really small, but if you are interested, you can go onto the SOD website and look at the actual planning drawings. But the plan in our presentation, if you look at it closely, you will find little slivers of green between the gardens. So warehouses have back-to-back gardens. The fences don't meet, and there's fingers of green between those, which have been deliberately put there to do exactly what you're mentioning, Catherine. So, have a look, and hopefully that will give you some comfort.
Okay.
Stefan, did you wish to ask a question?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll make a statement first, and then I'll go on to another thing.
Okay.
We're building a new site here, Ken. Well, I won't say I'm going to take a different point of view from you, but I'll just say it. We are building a new site here. Therefore, if we can have a site that has no fences, and actually in the design of the site, hedges are already put in, you tick all the boxes. So that's all I'm saying, is that when you're actually building a site, the cost is minimal to do that. Birds, bees cannot live in fences. They can live in hedges. So I will support Catherine on that particular point. It would be wrong of me not to actually talk about social rental.
Hold on.
So my question is, although this is an extension to an existing site, we are passionate about getting some social rental into Henley, and this site at the moment does not offer it on the original site or the new site. Now, if the developers, of course, Henley Town Council is one of them, if the developers want to extend this site, then actually there is a great opportunity for some social rental to go onto this site. So my blunt question is, would you consider redesigning part of this site to actually include that?
I think I may just need a bit of clarification on that, but our site, as in its totality, delivers 72 units, 40% of which will be affordable, and that will be split 75% rented and 25% shared ownership.
Yeah, the
and
point.
That is policy compliant. So I may have misunderstood the question.
No, no, you haven't. You haven't understood that bit of the question. Yes, it's policy compliant with SODC, 40% affordable. But 40% affordable in Henley means houses are £400,000 plus, so they're not affordable. Therefore, what we would want for some sites in Henley, or the majority of sites in Henley, in my opinion, I'm speaking on my own, is that we should have 10 or 12 social rental properties on this site that would have a rental of about £500 per month. And we would encourage all sites in our neighbourhood plan division to do that. So the question is, would you actually consider, yes, you're doing the affordable, brilliant, excellent, but we need in addition the social rental as well.
And we are proposing not just shared ownership, though. We are proposing.
No, I'm specifically asking about social rental.
I think, can I just answer this one? And I think, as someone said before, we're basically talking, Stefan, of now of Site 5, which has come into this.
Yep.
Unfortunately, what was agreed in the past was the 40% affordable, which was accepted at that time. I agree, you know, the neighbourhood plan working group are looking for social housing. I totally accept that. But if we're going to look at the social housing, I think we can only start talking about Site 5 here. To go back 3 years and ask the owner of the property to now change from affordable to social, I'm not sure if we could really do that. So, you know, by all means, I would suggest, you know, if we want to talk about Site 5 and maybe put some social up there, that's a possibility. But that's just my view, but I'll leave it to Charles to follow up on that.
Yeah, just a couple of points, if I can, Stefan. I think, and Tanya will correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly the mix and the tenure of the affordable housing is driven by SODC, and we follow their guidance and what they tell us they expect in terms of their policies. What we have also been encouraged is to distribute the 29 units around the site, what's called pepper potting. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yep.
So you don't end up with the affordable all clustered in one location.
Right. Fairly
obvious stuff. So it would be difficult if we were suddenly having to, you know, put affordable as you describe on Site 5, because you would be creating sort of a concentration of affordable in that location. What we've done with the 29 units is spread them around the overall development, you know, and our tenure mix has really been driven by SODC.
Yes. Sorry, just one more comment, Ken, and then I will stop.
Yeah, go on. Go on.
I mean, I agree with you. We are talking about this small site, which is extra to the primary site. What I'm saying is that in order to get this extra site, we are passionate in Henley about social rental housing. So therefore, fine, the site is good and the site should be developed and it should be 40% affordable. But I'm urging you to actually look at the whole of the site in total and actually say, well, actually, we could get 5 units of social rental there. And it would be a great place to put it because it's near Abrahams with great connectivity to the town. So I'm just asking that, fine, have a look at the overall scheme and just try and get that into the scheme as well.
Okay.
Because we're expanding the site, we're making it slightly more profitable, and I'll just caveat it in that way. Therefore, there is scope to do it. Thank you, Ken.
Okay, Lawrence, did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just going to say that, you know, I know we haven't all seen all 3 of the sites, but certainly the committee has, and councillors and a few of the members of the public. But you know, if we look at the first one, the second one, and the third one, if you look at is it right and proper to potentially include this one in the process, then I'd say yes. You know, it seems obvious given the shape of the plot, the duration of which the original plot has already been going through the system, and what the addition of this one provides. I think it is common sense to, you know, most likely do so. I do completely agree with what Stefan is saying. It is something that we really need to work on going forward. And in the 5-minute kind of interlude, it was something that Ken and Alan and I, you know, we were all discussing then, is something that a community land trust or a body like that going forward will do. Whether it's too late to include in this site, I do not know, but yeah, support the application.
Okay. Anybody else wish to make a quick comment? Actually, nobody. Kath, you see anybody? Jodie, anything else you wish to say?
Just it's probably worthwhile seeing how the planning application gets on, and then re-scoping from there, and then we can have another discussion following that, really, in terms of the ways forward with the neighbourhood plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alan, do you want to make a comment?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Michelle? No? Okay, thank you, Tanya and Charles, for your presentation. I thought it was excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, it's been, I'd say it's been a long time. Yeah, we are where we are. So thanks very much. And I'm sure we'll see you down the track when COVID eases, because there will be some public consultation over a 6 weeks period at some time. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for the presentation this evening. Always excellent.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Right, okay, I'd just like to wrap up the evening. Obviously, thanks for the working group for giving up another evening, only one more to go. Thank everybody who is watching this, Zooming or Facebook, whatever. Hope you've enjoyed the evening. And obviously thank you to Kath and Jodie for organising the evening. If it had been left to me, we wouldn't be here because it never would have started. So thanks for the two of you, and hopefully if anybody wishes to join us tomorrow night, we're on at 6:30 again. If any members of the public wish to come, just get in touch with Jodie. Our information's on the Town Council website. So thank you all very much for attending this evening. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.